Hey, how are you? It was a long time since I first started streaming. I guess it was in November, and it was live drawing session for Stinktober. And at the beginning of this year, I noticed that I did so much stuff in terms of illustration, but there was almost no lettering works last year. So at the beginning of this year, I wanted to make more lettering works and post them regularly on social media. So this live drawing session is all about lettering. So let's jump to drawing. So I picked a phrase, a short one, enjoy the silence. And I will just walk through how I sketch stuff and how I work with letters. So let's start doing that. Usually my process is pretty easy. I start with so-called thumbnail drawing. So there are like different ways of doing that, and the easiest way is to go with skeleton drawing. But before I start sketching, I just try to write the word that I wanted to letter with. So enjoy the silence. The one thing that before starting doing your lettering is just to check the spelling, because oh boy, I had so many times mess with the typos, and I designed like all the layout, the composition, and I had to redo it a couple of times because some of the letters were like missing, or I misused some of them. So once I write it, I can definitely see that the can go under enjoy, and silence will actually go here. And since this is for the social media, we're going to have the layout like that. So this is just like quick blocks of how to lay out our lettering correctly. And now we can just erase it and start doing our sketches. So, as I mentioned, I prefer skeletal sketches since it gives me like room to work with, add contrast, and just play around with them. Let's start with something easy. So let it be something like that. Yeah, J can go here. We can play around with some of the swooshes and see how we can manage to add the. Basically, we can play around with the Y and H, and they can share the stroke. Whoop. Yeah, I think. Yeah. So here it is. The T can have a shared stroke with H as well. And silence, we can go a bit with the backwards, so we can see that S will probably take this place, but what I'm trying to do, this L letter can fit here nicely, so I can go with that and see how it can be placed here. And now we can fill space with S, or just like try different options of it and see how that fits. Also, we can have like next layer, something that I like, and something that it's not that easy to achieve with a paper. You can use like tracing paper and have it on the top of your sketch, but you end up with ton of paper, and it's just less convenient than drawing an iPad. So that's why I prefer drawing in Procreate, and sometimes even start in it without like sketching on the paper. Yeah, so and once we have like this, we can try to experiment and see what we can do with some of the letters. For example, there can be some variations. J can look like that, or there can be like connection to O. I think we can experiment and play with H like that. So it can be like this. Also, the one thing that I'm like immediately noticing that um, also like Y can make like the T-stroke, but we'll see how that goes. I think that maybe we'll have a conflict and there will be like troubles with the readability. So I think it's better to go a bit lower with that and see if that will work. Maybe constantly go to the right. Yeah, and here we will have maybe even more space for S is a very artistic letter, and I always like to experiment with that. And there is like so many ways to write it. Yeah, so I think that can be our like the first option. Let's have it on the right and see what we can do in the other way. Maybe we can even start experiment and add some of the elements from the Cossack script lettering and see how we can end up with that. So we can have E like more playful. Also, like the N can have a swoosh on the top, and the swoosh can actually make the dot of the J. And also, here is like the nice composition that can be here, and the Y can be fully connected to the O in this case, and we will have like this nice swooshy composition. Here I don't think that we will play that much with the here, but we can have like this leg of an H a bit like bouncy and playful. Yeah, the T can be a bit shorter. Yeah, so here it is. And silence, I think that here we may need to draw some guides. Usually I try to add guides after I figure out the basic layout and the sketch that I want to continue with, but in this case I think it's worth trying to add it before that. Also, we can have like L a bit disconnected so it can go underneath our like baseline. The one thing that we can play around is also with this E. This E can also, we can remove this layer for now. This E can also be more like a Greek style or like Cyrillic style. Yeah, so we can see it here. So the E will be here, but you know, repeating it everywhere, I don't think will be that interesting. So silence. Sometimes in Cossack script, I can see that C or S letters, it's like eating the other letters, like you know, like a Pac-Man. So usually this is how you can see, for example, the ligature, or you can call it just like two letters, one next to another. So it can have something interesting, but I don't think that this experiment will go well here. So we can have like more regular stuff happening here, and also we can see that N can go underneath and be a bit more playful, and we can remove the L and go underneath like here. I and S. And the problem with the S letter, if you want to have it in like the Cossack script style, that there is actually no a very close symbol like that, and you should be creative with that and see what will work. I think we can go with a regular E here and just see how it can end up. Oop. So that will be our next sketch. Yeah, the one thing to keep in mind that this live session shouldn't be that long. So I was thinking that maybe an hour and a half. So if I cross 1 hour line, so please let me know, because I don't want it to be exhausting and I want it to be interesting. So yeah, and here we can easily play with the composition and see how we can fit and reshape the letters and try to rearrange them in a different way. So I like this composition a bit better because it fits like the vertical layout a bit better, so it will be better for Instagram overall, I think. And they are changing their aspect ratio like from year to year, and I'm sick of that. This is something that I hate about Instagram. I think that we can have something similar to E-shape here and play around with S to have, maybe we can have something like that, and here can be like this connection between E, can be like that. Also we can twist around and play with this. Let's experiment a bit more. I think you can use like this one, the first one, as a base, and try to do something maybe more in more European style or something like that. Since J and Y are like siblings, we can try to match them. Here it is, and in my previous video, I told that usually S letter is always in my lettering work, and it's fun letter to experiment with, but sometimes also exhausting because there are so many ways of S shape, and sometimes it's hard to decide which letter will feel right for this version of lettering layout. And we can have it not symmetrical. Maybe that will be more interesting, to have it like that. But also we can fill this space a bit and have like a tighter version. Like that. Also can go a bit to the right. Yeah, and it can be a bit smaller. Why not? Happy accidents are happening all the time. Pay attention to everything, and sometimes you can find really good solution by accident. I'm not super happy with the ass, to tell the truth, so I will try to see what we can do with that. Here it is. Maybe we can go with and sometimes you can just like twist around your canvas for the experiments. Can be like that, maybe. No, that's too much, I think. Maybe that will work. We'll see. Oh, we see some comments here. Yes, S is quite difficult. Oh, you're talking about this sharp thing, right? Am I right? Yeah, this is something that I like. I mean, it's not something that should be present in your letters, but I think this is just good way of writing that you're not writing straight with this, but you just like starting with this type of stroke, and somehow it like fills this space, and I don't know, just looks nice. Also, like previously I saw pretty cool letter as, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to replicate that, but it was something like that. So it has like this nice stroke, And it also can be done in letter E. So we can have something like that. I don't know, it reminds me of old vintage coffee machine. So so it will be a bit more wider overall. Ice Arctic Wolf, thanks for joining, by the way. Yeah, and I think that it can go in different directions. It can go either in this way or it can go in this way. So there are just like many ways of playing around with that. Let's see where we can fit D here, because I think that can be pretty interesting version. S is like too big, also that needs to be yeah, compositionally that will be harder, and I think it's easier to go with something more standard, since we have like limited time and balancing all this. But this is definitely something that I can consider and play around. Yeah, so I think we have like pretty good examples. I would say like those two are pretty nice. The Cossack script is a bit raw to me, so I think that that will need more refinement. But this one is pretty good, so we can have it as a starting point. So let's play around with that. I haven't used Procreate in a few months, and I think that I forgot everything and how to use this app at all. So sorry if I will be clicking back and forth just to remind myself how to do that in the right way. Yeah, so this is the Instagram canvas that I'm using, and I'm using, I think the dimension is 1080 by 1350, something like that. Yeah, we can shut it down, and here where the fun part starts. So you don't have to make like a big decision on this stage, and you can just go and play around with the contrast. So usually at this stage I try to draw some guides for me, and they help me just to shape the letters in the right proportions, because here you can see that N is there is no even baseline, and this is the bad thing, because if you want to have consistency or create some rules, it's better to start with that. So we have our baseline and our X height. Also here we can see that we can have it for the silence as well. The S is a bit too big if to compare with the E, but I think that that may work here for the composition purpose. Usually I draw one more skeleton letter above that just to make sure everything aligns. And after that, I'm adding. I'm a big fan of this Cossack script sketch. Maybe enjoy could be a bit simpler to match the other two. Maybe, maybe. Let's review that and see. Mm, yeah, enjoy is definitely maybe too funky, I would say, and the N can be. We can see how we can simplify it without like losing character of them. Let's add also the baseline and like twist it around. So yeah, and I see that the silence is way bigger than enjoy, and like for the sketch is absolutely okay, but if you want to go with the final piece, there should be something in common. So let's have those guides turned back a bit so we can have it about 40% or even lower. I think 20% will work well for that. Yeah, and lately I felt like the terrible pain in my right arm because I was playing games too much. And you know, lately we were obsessed with Hollow Knight Silksong. Maybe someone heard of it or even played. It's extremely hard, but very well done and so beautiful. So I was talking to Sola if she can stream it on Twitch, like, you know, playing, and maybe you wanna see some of let's play content from us. So what do you think about that? Yeah, we can, and I think we can just grab and copy Anne here just to see how that will work. I think that works good. But there will be trouble with a J, I think. So we should get rid of this. Bring our sketch a bit down. Yep. So what do you think about let's play content? Let me know in the comments. And also I was thinking that Twitch can be nice, maybe for some guitar playing. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So we should definitely think about that. Yeah, we're making funny faces while we are playing, and I think this is because, personally, for me, the hardest part in gaming is jumping, and there are so many jumps there that I just like feel that my body is lifting when I'm jumping. Yeah, so this is like very funny to watch from the side. Yeah, maybe here we should copy E just for the consistency. Hey, where are you? It was hiding from me. Here it is. So we can go like that. And for the and we can copy this and go here. Yeah, we can erase this part and see how that fits, if it's better or not. So let me know, do you like the Cossack script or do you like more traditional lettering? What should I pick for my final touch? Yes, we can play with S a bit here and see how that can save our... Yes, sorry, I think I missed the right layer. I think that will work better. What do you think? I think we can play with this sketch. Also, here I don't like the gap between O and J. Maybe we can have them a bit closer. Current stuff a bit. So I think that will work. Also, I like this interconnection that is actually like your eyes is drawing here. Yeah, I think we should go with this and see if we can make it better or not. So let it be our final sketch. Let's have it here. Oh. And draw some lines. So 40 minutes, almost 40 minutes for the sketch. Oh my, that's a lot. That's a lot. Also, like before starting live session, I was thinking what type of contrast I would like to have, and overall how to draw letters. And I was thinking that we can have like the moderate contrast here, because personally I'm not big fan of like very big contrast. If something that we have in like Nib pan, or if we were talking about like classical Spencerian or something like that, I like moderate contrast. Yeah, we can turn down a bit, around like 30. Can you even see it? Yeah, I think you can see it. Good. Enjoy the silence. Yeah, I like this song, and I think that I've seen like the video clips so many times on We Had M1 channel, and it was like playing all the time. So there are like many ways of adding contrast, and if we're like drawing, for example, letter N, we can use the area drawing method and just quickly add the weight to it like that. And in this case, I'm trying like to simulate a wide nib, and as you can see here, the contrast here is like pretty high, and we can like turn it a bit down and shape it in the way we want. So this is actually where the drawing happening, because it's no longer writing, it's like more drawing. Also, we can have play around with the connection. We can add ink traps or other stuff. So this is the most popular way of drawing letters, and this is usually how I draw them, or how I try to draw them, because when I started, I used the brush pens and I was like drawing on top of that, and after that I was creating vectors. So brush was the starting point for me, and brush sketch was like the starting point for me. But that's a bit limiting, and you're like limited with the brush style and brush pen you have. And once you're drawing, you can play around with different techniques, and probably at the end of the day, no one will tell what tool exactly you were using while drawing. So yeah, just a quick fun tip from me. Not sure if it's like very fun, but we'll see. Here we can start with the N, since we have N here, N shape here and here, and that will probably drive us and give us some space. Yeah, and I think we will need some more guides. We need more guides. Nice and consistent. The good thing that we can group that, and we can duplicate that, and after that do something like this, and that will save us some time. Are you enjoying the music? Yeah, the chat is a bit silent. Give me your comments. What do you think? Do you like it? Should I make some last minute change? Be like the real annoying client. Say it's all wrong. I will tell you once I see it. And other stuff. Usually I try to copy one guide just to play safe in order not to draw it. And as you can see here, also I have like 2 layers, and those guys like layer 21 and layer 16, they're like hidden, and yeah, we can definitely get rid of that. Nice music, great. Yeah, and there was a cool intro animation, and Solia did this, and probably she used lettering that we liked. There were like 30 versions of them, and we picked the version that we liked the most, and she animated them, and I think that's pretty cool. Also, we're thinking that we can have streams like on a regular basis. We can have them on every Wednesday, maybe. Yeah, let's have it a bit more curved. So this is like the script, and we can play around. So here you can see that I'm I'm trying to build some shapes and add some weight to letters. And once you can do like wiggle technique, if you try to emulate the white nib, it's kind of a hard to do if you want to try to emulate um, like the brush pen, since it goes in opposite direction and you have to twist your hand to achieve that. So usually like from my experience, I know how it may behave, so I try to go with some shapes. But also it's worth filling them on some certain stage, because that will give you understanding of the proportion of the white and the dark space. And you can immediately see here that my like connecting line was maybe a bit too harsh, I think too thick. So as I mentioned, it should be like not high contrast, but there should be some contrast at least to have like this nice blending. So this is the N, and what we can do from here is also, like for consistency sake, we can draw like a circle to see if we can match the thickness of the letter. And I just like to measure that, so this is just like the measuring point for me. And for the for this like thin line, we can go with the other circle. So those two circles can be our guides here. Yeah, we can erase this O. Oh, too thick. After that, we can duplicate, for example, letter N and try to use that in some other spaces like this. And also we can go here and we can lower the opacity of this H. I'm going a bit ahead. So yeah, and we can try to work on top of that and add this swoosh from the letter H. Remember that for the consistency, we can use like this shape and see how thick our line can be. It's relatively easy to do here, where like we have our stem, but sometimes can be like tricky for the parts like that. And I think that here we will go for a thinner line and add the weight around here. So it will be something like that. Oh, and this is the mistake that I'm doing all the time. I started drawing on the dot layer. So stupid. So stupid. Like noob mistake. Yeah, adding some weight as soon as possible to see how this shape works and evaluate it properly. I think we don't need it right now, but we will need this. Yeah, I think that's I guessed it right, so it's probably the contrast is good, consistent. And this is how I draw my letters. We can match the stem of an N. Just add a bit more weight here. Yeah. For the E letter, we can move to the E letter, and what we can do with we can also duplicate this element since we already have it, and we can play it like the building blocks and see. Also for more rounded shapes like E, O, the thickness can be a bit heavier, and also we can go a bit above the line and below the line, just to have it more optically correct. So here you can see I'm using my guides to match that. Usually the ear of E is relatively small, but sometimes for me that looks a bit uncomfortable. I like larger aperture, to tell the truth. Are you bored? Do you... What are you thinking about? I'm curious. We will see how we can experiment with this ending once we finish with our like bouncy shapes like this. Since I think I forgot about that we had like this twisting saber leg, so it's like the sword or something. And this is that the thing that Cossack script is famous for. There is a lot of like sword-like strokes, and sometimes they can be like a needle. Sometimes they can have like teardrop. But I think that in this particular case, we can use sharp edges and sharp ending. Yeah, thanks for your comments. Great that you like that. Yeah, and here we can move to the letter T, and what we can do here, we can also use like this shape to draw it. We'll see, maybe we can make it a bit looser, but we'll see. Also, we should pay attention like to this part, since we want to match that ending as well, for the sake of consistency. Also, the one thing that I noticed that in script letters, longer stems are not that um, angled. So usually we can see that they can be not that angled at small letters, and it's also for like optical alignment. So silence. And about the silence, there are so many sayings about the silence. There is Japanese or Chinese that silence is gold. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Also, I think there is Brazilian or other famous writer that told that silence is not gold, and he has his own purposes. And also there is like Lina Kostenko quote. Words are scary when there is silence, so there's also a truth in that. But in the reality that we're living right now, I think that silence is a good sign. Yeah, I think maybe this this like should be a bit modified for the N. Can go a bit like maybe like that. So you can see I'm like trying to add some details and see how that looks together with some other letters and make some small changes. K is a good starting point for C as well. And also we can duplicate E just to save the time. Let's quickly check. Yeah, we can see that E is a bit thicker, exactly what we need. Yeah, like this stroke, you can see that it's like a bit thinner, and like those strokes are a bit thicker, something that we are looking for the right balance. And I'm happy about that. Yeah, so let's make nice C letter and C. So there are like many ways of connecting letters. I like when they're connecting in this way, but also it can be connected in more straight way, something like this. For example, if we have the letter E here, it can be connected like that. So there is like no smooth connection, but I prefer smooth connection. There is like good rhythm in that. Do you have any recommendation on where to learn the Cossack script, some online tutorials, or maybe a book? I have a few books on Cossack script, and I can share the authors. About the online, I think that there is Art IA, Art and Me in Kiev, and I think this is maybe the best and the fastest way of learning Cossack script, because you can like visit offline workshop, which is very cool since you have like the feedback um, from the tutor, and they're like the best teachers that can be possibly found. Also, there is like the Monkey Art Studio. Um, they have like practice sheets that also can help. So I think that if I had an opportunity to go to Kiev one day, I would definitely go to their workshop. And I think that for the owl, we can use this as a starting point and see. This is something that is not recommended to twist around, but I think we can play around with it and see what we can do with that. Yeah, this is the empty layer. Yeah, art and me is a great option, to tell the truth. Maybe we can go with the eye first, and that will give us good. Probably we have a lag from H. Where is it? It should be somewhere here. And that can be our eye. With a bit of adjustment. Can make it a bit straighter. And also move it a bit here. And add opacity. Just to evaluate it properly. And we can try to see if we can incorporate the good letter L. So it's an hour. And I was asking you if you can remind me that. And you forgot to remind me. My beloved audience. Yeah, we can definitely go together. I will enjoy that. This is actually a tricky part here because we can see that there is an intersection of a thick and thin line and but it's not that thin, so we may not need to reshape it or visually correct it, but we'll see how it goes. If it looks off, we will we know how to deal with that. I wasn't thinking of vectorizing that because I did a lot of vectors. Maybe I'll vectorize it, you know. It can be like the sketch and I can vectorize it, and after that I can tweak it in Illustrator or Photoshop, add some textures and play around with that. Yeah, I see there is like tiny problem here. So you may have heard of Pockendorf or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm using like this in the right way, but there is like optical illusion that this line like is not 100% aligned, so usually you have to move like this part a bit to right to avoid this, but I think we can do that a bit later. For now we're like trying Yeah, Al is looking a bit weird, I have to say. We have to play around with it a bit more. Yeah, let's have our sword-like and see how it can help us to shape it in the right way. Yeah, so we can have it not that straight. We can have it in a bit different way. Let's quickly check if we... Yeah, I think we're... It can be even a bit thicker. Looks great, don't change it. I already changed that. Yeah, I always try to like final tweak it in vector, and this is where it's like super friendly with like all the anchor points. You can just like play around with that, and you can just adjust if needed. And here we can have it maybe a bit like that, disconnected a bit. Yeah, now the hard part. S. Usually the spine is the heaviest part, and if you have some troubles with considering where you should apply weight to this letter, the safest zone is to place it on the spine, unless you're dealing with something more fancy like reverse contrast or something like that. Since this is like the downstroke, I think that most of we will like take our hand off once we land it, so it will be thinner here. Yeah, also you can see that this and those parts, they are just like matching. We're matching the end strokes just to emulate the brush pen. So what do you think? Would you enjoy to have this live session regularly, like every week for quite some time? Will you watch it or not? Oop. Yeah, I wanted to have it like connected with E. hard to understand where this contrast will go, but I think that potentially it will go like that. And sometimes when I'm working with a script lettering, I have a piece of paper and brush pen just to check. For S shape, it can go a bit wider, and it should, so we're good here. Maybe a bit thinner, maybe like 2. I told that we're making funny faces when we're playing games, but I think that I'm still making some funny faces while drawing some letters, so that's kind of a playing game. So Frogsidjix. Sorry if I pronounced that in not correct way. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah, we can try to do that next next week as well. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, and also there will be a dot or jot about the eye. And I think that we can have it let's have it connected. Probably the brush will behave it something like that, I think. I think that we can play around with S and go like that. Yeah, so we can see there are not that many letters that we're missing. Let's go with the C for the O. Where is my C? Concentration faces are funny indeed, especially when you're drawing characters, emotions, something for myself making. Yeah, yeah, you're the a good point. And I saw like the good example where like old Disney cartoonists, they were like they had a small mirror next to their like working space, and yeah, they were like playing with some emotions and exaggerate them to have them in like correct way. Here we can go a bit of the baseline. And also I immediately see that like the thin line is went like too thin. Yeah. Also, one of the parts that is our like N part is very helpful actually. You can see that we're like reusing it as much as we can for the sake of consistency. Here we can change a bit of the ending of Y, and this is something that you can see in the fonts as well. So like the U shapes or Y shapes, there are can be a bit different to N shapes. So it's absolutely okay to experiment with that. Um, the letter O is interesting. Um, that's like pretty standard connection, I think, but you can play around with that. Like connection of O to the other letters are like really funny and interesting. Also, you can intersect some of the stuff. Um, so you can play around with that. It's a nice letter. Some people consider them as one of the hardest since they're like it's like very symmetrical. And if we're like, oh, I did the same mistake. Um, if we were talking about maybe Gothic O or something when you have to like have it very symmetrical and completed, it's very tricky to do, to tell the truth. And even like James Edmondson from Onotype tells that it's hard to master. So that's pretty tricky stuff. But it's a nice letter. You can see I'm still using like this area drawing method, and sometimes I'm going like to shapes, like a building blocks to use it as a building blocks. Maybe Y is too thick and can be changed a bit, and sometimes I'm like playing around with the swooshes and I try to keep them on different layers, and that gives me some room of flexibility, like to change this letter without ruining the shape. Here, if we will write it, I think like this part will be this like thick. If we will go with brush, and if we go back here, probably it will go something like that, like this type of swoosh. It's so long. Maybe we can make it a bit shorter. This is the hard one. Maybe it should be done in a different way, a bit different way, I mean. To have it a bit shorter. I think it's still too long. I think that will work for now. We still have a few letters left. Where's our first N? We're going back to you. And we're going to use Y shape. Oh. We'll try. And I see it's like a bit thicker than it should be. And also the Y as well. Where is our checker? No, but it felt like too thick to me. Yeah, maybe it was perfect. And usually I with the swooshes you can I like to play with them on when I'm drawing vectors. Yeah, I think this can be a bit shorter like that. Also, like this part, move it a bit upper. We already have like this. Should like try to match it, I think. I know that it was easier just to copy the dot, but you see I did it in a different weird way. Let's do some refinement and see the composition if it's good or bad. So this is the, yeah, we can delete this one. We have C, we have E, we have this swoosh, we can delete. Yeah, this is the T. This we can get rid of. This is the old L. Yeah, maybe, you know, you were right, but it was a bit better. Yes, something is wrong with this thick line. I think it can be improved. I erased the wrong part, sorry. With the Y, I think we'll still need to match like our ending a bit better. And the final letter. Yeah, we can have the starting point just to match like this pretty thing, but I will maybe try with a bit lower. The one thing that we can do here, we can add something like that, and that will actually tell us that someone who was potentially writing it, that was doing that like in one stroke, or at least tried to do that in one stroke. I think we can go a bit wider with E, because there are a lot of also ways to draw E. We should go back to our contrast checker, where it is. So also, like, proportionally, I would like to have like this upper bow to be a bit smaller. Maybe this thing a bit shorter. So it can intersect around here. Now we can hide everything that we don't need right now. Also like this, S, and I think, see, there's something behind the O. I guess it was C. Yep. So here it is. Here is potentially our like final work. Yeah, this is the dot. So many layers, and sometimes it's hard to manage them. Where is this tiny little thing that I'm looking for? Nope. Yeah, this one. Yay! Glad you like that. Yeah, from this point, I think we can. Usually, I try to for like double check to have everything like separate, but I think like for this, we can try to add everything on one layer. And see how it goes. So this is our piece. I think there is like still a way to improve it, and there are some like gaps that we see, something that distracts me, and I think we can try to move that up, move that a bit, and play around that in vector. Also, we can try. Oh, I think I accidentally. We can have it like here, and also we can try to go with a stem a bit lower. Just like that. And see how that will work. But mostly, I think it's not that distractive. We can still have this white space here. This can land a bit to left. Oop. Yeah, but it's like almost good for and get ready for vectorization. And sometimes there are some people that prefer working like 100% on the paper and not changing anything on while vectoring. But what I practice is I'm changing everything on each stage, like sketch, and after that, like this refined sketch, it can be a bit different, and I'm flexible, so I can try to adjust it. It's not like the final stage, so it's still work in progress. So yeah, I think that's it for today. And thanks for being with me all this time. And I'm really happy that you had this hour and a half and wanted to be with me here. And hope that next week we can have the same drawing session. Maybe we will try something more funky, something more I don't know, fresh or interesting, maybe bubble style or something else. But definitely it will be worth checking. I'll try to make vector of this work and share it a bit later or on Instagram. So please subscribe to this channel and also go to Instagram if you want to see the final result and see what I changed here. The biggest mystery, if I changed anything on this final piece. So thanks again and see you next week. Bye.